Hello, Chef Bodie here with Diane's Restaurant in the heart of Old Town Silver City, gateway to the Gila Wilderness and the Gila Cliff Dwellings. I'm going to be showing you today how to butcher a New York strip loin. I prefer to use the scimitar. It's a nice big sharp blade with a nice round sweeping front edge. Quite often I'll be using a boning knife for all the small detail work, and then the scimitar for the bigger cutting of the steaks and the larger cuts. Whenever I sharpen my knives, I use this technique where we're rubbing it back and forth and back and forth. I make sure and count my swipes across the stone, so I make sure and sharpen even on both sides. If I sharpen 10 swipes on one side, I sharpen 10 swipes again on the other side. I make sure to keep my angle to the stone exactly the same, so that way it's a sharp, precise angle. And I work my way down from 10 swipes, 8 swipes, 6 swipes, down to 1 swipe on each side, so that way my angle will be exactly the same on each side. And as I'm working my way down, I'm basically rolling the edge of the metal over until it starts curling over a little bit, and then I push it the other way and it curls back over the other way. And as you're sharpening your knife, you can actually run your finger down the side just like this, and you can feel it's just a little bit rough where that edge kind of curls over, and you can feel it as you're swiping across it with your finger. And well, eventually you get that edge so it's standing up perfectly straight, and that's what we're going for a nice razor sharp knife. We have a New York strip here, still in the cryovac. You can see the blood inside of it. It's not poofy, it's nice and vacuum packed. This is a good New York. We're going to go ahead and cut it open and bleed it off. I like to take it, open it up, get it out of the blood, and put it into the refrigerator for a little while before you actually butcher into steaks and clean it all up. As you can see, it's kind of ugly and messy and dripping with blood. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take that, put it into a pan, and let it dry for a little while. This piece of meat right here, a little bigger than most people would be dealing with on the everyday sort of function, but they're great for parties, for big families. The New York, which is one of the most popular cuts of meat, comes out of the New York strip. So we're going to go ahead and damp off all the blood. Just make it easier to work with and more tidy. Okay, that's all nice and cleaned up and ready to go. On the New York strip loin, you have, well, let's see, I think about 4 things that are really important. You've got your rear end here, you've got your well end here. You can see this big eye right there, kind of designates that as the well end. You've got your toe here, which is the fat side. And over here, on this side, we've got our chain. This is a very tough, sinewy tendon that needs to come out. So usually one of the first things I do when I'm preparing to butcher in New York is I look at this chain and I kind of find out where it ducks down into the meat and where I kind of just have to call it a loss and not chase it down into the meat anymore because I don't want to mess up my meat. So I make a mark on that side and I make a mark on this side, right about where it ducks down into the meat, and I kind of lose the tendon down into the good meat that I don't want to mess with. Once that I've got that mark, I kind of take a straight line and follow it all the way across from side to side. Careful not to cut down into the meat too much. Again, I don't want to damage the good meat. And I flip it back over and I start to clean it up. This over here is a lot of extra fat and sinew, so we're going to go ahead and just take all that off. We want to really clean it up and get it down to the good meat because that's what we want to give to our friends and our family. So as I'm working my way down across the front, I like to cut a kind of a sharp angle down across this toe. That's mostly fat, and we need to get to the, we need to be able to see where the designation between the meat and the fat is, because there's a big fat toe here. Once we can see where that line is, then we can kind of pick our mark and we can go ahead and chop that front right off. It's a funny thing, you know, fat is very important, but at the same time, you don't want big chunks of fat. You want a nice, even marbling. The fat does retain a lot of the flavor. The fat also more or less can overwhelm your taste buds with the greasiness of it and really make you perceive that there's more flavor there than there is. The fat that I'm trimming off of this New York, I can make stocks out of it, I can make soups, I can get good flavor out of it. It is beef, and so it can be rendered and you can use it. You can also make great dog food out of it. As I'm getting the sinew cleaned off the top of it, you're starting to really be able to see the beautiful marbling coming through this nice piece of meat. That's what you want to see. Here at Diane's we get choice, which is some of the best meat we can get. There is a very large spectrum of beef quality. You can go from the cheapest stuff that is abused cattle that are sick, and or you can go all the way up to the best meat possible, the Kobe beef and the choice, and you know, there's a big difference, and it really pays to pay attention to the quality of meat. So then we're going to go ahead and we're going to flip this over, so that way I can get to the chain. Now we can see I've got that line across here, and we've got that thick chain right here that I'm going to want to get rid of. The easiest way that I've found to do it is to flip it over and cut down. You always want to be cutting down towards the cutting board as much as possible, so it's safer. I'm going to flip around to this side so that way everybody can see what we're doing here. Now if you look, we can see that really tough kind of stuff popping its head out right there. So we're going to take our knife and we're going to come in right above it. And we're going to cut down into that tough stuff. Now we're going to try and take all of that off. Now I'm trying to not damage my meat and to save as much of my meat as possible. Once that I get about 2 inches or so in, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flip this over, where I can work from it from above, where it's a little bit easier. So we're going to grab that chain and we're going to flip it over. Now I can really see what I'm doing now that I got it there. So I'm going to come up underneath it. Again, I'm chasing the sinew on one side and the meat on the other side. I'm really trying to leave the meat on the strip line and take that sinew off. Once that I get to a spot where I feel I'm good and I'm getting close to my line that I cut on this side, then I try to come up through the sinew removing all that nasty chain. So now this New York strip is ready to be staked out. On the New York strip, I always start with the rear end. This is the prettier piece of meat. If I'm going to have any waste, I want to make sure and have it on the well end, because that's the lesser quality meat. I like to work with the fat toe facing me, and depending on what you're doing, you always want to be scaling out your meat so that way you can make sure and keep it consistent. I'm going to go ahead and cut a nice flat edge onto that side there. And this is a nice little steak. There's nothing wrong with that. We can go ahead and enjoy that later. And then we're going to start getting our nice portion. Well, today we're going to go for about a 10, 11 ounce steak. Now look at that. That's a beautiful New York. Beautiful marbling, a nice fat toe, less than a 1/4 inch of fat all along the back. That's what we're going for. Okay, so we've got a couple steaks cut here. Beautiful New Yorks. We're going to go ahead and cook those up. Today we're going to be grilling them. I personally like my meat about mid-rare, so please follow me over to our grill. Salt and peppering our New York steak here. It's very important to always salt and pepper your meat before you put it on the grill. It really does something to the cells of the outside of the meat to put the salt and pepper on. Before you put it on the heat, the cells rupture, the flavor is intensified. It's, well, one of my little secrets here at Diane's restaurant. So we've got our New York steak here on the grill. We've got a nice Lava Rock radiant gas grill here. I always like to put the New York at about a 45-degree angle across my grill bars. Going for a mid-rare. So we're going to leave it on there for about 2 minutes on each side. We're going to roll the steak over. We're going to leave it at the exact same angle on the grill. So we've got those nice 45-degree angle bar marks across it. And we're going to give it about another 2 minutes on that side.